Well, good morning and welcome to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. This video is something that I had promised you, and I'm trying to get caught up on all of my promises so that I don't disappoint. But I wanted to take you through my home management binder. So I actually had done this video previously, but somehow I turned the phone upside down. So it was just a bad video, and I thought, you know what, let's just start over and take a gander through this. So the reason I developed a home management binder or a homestead management binder was because I was having difficulty remembering, after living in this home almost 20 years, when I had done certain things, like when was my furnace put in, when did I have a new water heater, when did I last replace this, that roof, something else. So I thought, having it all in one place would be a really great idea. And I assumed that I was not the first person who lacked a little bit of organization and who decided, I probably need to keep this all in one place. So I built out my binder with a look to the future. So there are some sections in here, and I'm going to actually show you the binder and tell you where I got a lot of these free printables. I did not pay for any of this. I got it all free. What I would suggest, because everyone's needs and homesteads are different, is that you just do a Google search for Homestead Management Binder or Home Management Binder. Either one will bring you to so many free printables. Some of the websites you had to provide your email address, then they sent you a link, and then you could download the free printables. And then if you don't find value in that website, you can simply unsubscribe or put it into your spam, whatever works best for you. So let's get into the binder and talk about how you might develop your own. So I purchased a 3-inch binder from the dollar store. Often you can find these at Goodwill or at thrift stores, but I couldn't find one that was 3-inch, and I wanted a large one so that I wouldn't have to have multiple binders that I had to keep up with. So I liked the graphics on this. I liked the colors. So this is what I slipped in to my cover. And most of this came from projectzenstead.com. And I'm going to lift this up so you can actually see. So I did not create these. I simply pasted them off of the free websites. So inside, I did go purchase one of these little dollar zipper pouches so that I could put things like labels and index cards, and I have a thing for gel pens. So I wanted to be able to keep different color gel pens in here. So that has worked out really well. Then I had quite a few packages left of page protectors from my working days. So I thought, it would be really smart for things that I want to copy multiple times. So planners that are daily, weekly, monthly, etc. I made printed copies of these and then put them inside plastic. So this is a monthly progress report. So I also purchased some really inexpensive dividers because I thought I want this to be organized and pretty. So primarily I have used really 3 sections: the homestead management, the gardening, and then the home repair type section. I have added sections for animal management so that I can keep track of my bees and hopefully chickens when I'm able to have chickens. And then some other financial forms that I thought were really, really good that I wanted to have when I was ready to perhaps produce enough food or animal products, so that I could actually begin making money, keep track of my customers. So one of the things that I really love is, and again, this is from Project Zenstead, is a monthly project list. So you can see I have September, October, and November. I've got a couple things left, but it's really kept me focused on what do I need to do. If there's something, say, for the month of October that I don't finish, I can then rewrite it over into November. What goes along with that is a monthly progress report. Now, I have not filled this out but you can write down what you actually accomplished and then any notes. Like, for example, I planted my garlic in November, but I really should have done it in October, so that you can look at this next year and then have like a rolling account of when you're going to do what. So these are just additional monthly project lists. Then I found a form that is winterizing the homestead, and it talks about your home itself, animals, lawn and garden, and talks about everything that you should do. So it was a really good starting point for me, so I keep that as reference. Then, because I had major plumbing issues back in August, I had to purchase a new water heater, and I also had new water lines run to the outside. I wanted to keep track of it, how much it cost, who did it, etc. And there are other similar records that you can print off that are like a plumbing record for your homestead. There is also a really neat home inspection checklist. So you can go through your buildings, your actual home itself, and take a look at things like what needs to be done with the siding, how are my gutters, does my roof look okay? And you can actually document the condition and then, make notes. I need to start saving for new windows or whatever the case might be. So some of these forms that I'm showing you right now, I actually copied out of a Homestead binder, and I'll grab that and show that to you. I thought it was in here, but obviously it's not. That's why you need a binder. The book itself came when I used to receive the Homestead subscription box, which I no longer receive. From a cost standpoint, there was a lot of repetition, and there were a lot of things that didn't apply to my homestead. What I got was high quality, and I have nothing against the company. But this particular homestead planner and logbook that was that came in one of the boxes, the bad thing about it was you could use it one time. So you could use it for 1 year and then you had to repurchase. When you can go out and print things for free, that is much more economical, and that's the way I've chosen to do it. So the next section I have here is garden management. So I often have difficulty remembering whether an herb is annual or perennial. So homesteadingfamily.com is where I got this, and I'll put the links in the description box to the websites that I visited to hopefully help you along. But it talks about whether it's perennial or annual, and also some of the uses. So as I expand, I can actually look at the herb, see what I could use it for, cross-reference to books like this, the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook. I have so many herb books, so you can actually look up and see, does it make sense for me to give up garden space or yard space to actually grow that herb? So this has been a great reference. Now, y'all don't laugh. So I went out and tried to print, and I'm going to take this out of here so y'all can see. I tried to print this really cute like garden planner thing, but for some reason it would only print the first 2 beds, and I have 6. So I ended up just drawing in, or writing in, excuse me, because I didn't have the cute little pictures, what I planted. And you'll see in, actually it's hot pink, it kind of looks red on the camera screen. I made notes like, this is taking over my garden. I need to transplant some of it. Another example, I had blossom drop with my bell peppers. The cauliflower, I didn't get any cauliflower because we just have a lot of pests, and I don't use pesticides or herbicides. So I got nothing but bug-eaten leaves from my cauliflower, so that didn't work out. So next year, as I sit down in the winter to plan my garden, I'll know how I need to rotate the crops first and foremost. And then secondly, what went well, what didn't, what do I want to expand, what do I want to transplant. I also save my seed packets. So if I have something that grows well, the Burpee California Poppy, this was really cool. It's still growing, and it seems to be a little bit cold weather tolerant, so that's great. I tried growing catnip. Much to Frankie's dismay, it did not grow well. I need to write on this because I haven't yet. I alluded to my sugar pumpkins. They were too late on the vine, and these were actually burpy, so I don't want to make that mistake again, so I will just make a note of that. And then I received some of these Gardener's Workshop, also in the Homestead box, of the zinnias. And oh my word, I did not pull up my zinnias, and I'm going to get 1 or maybe 2 more cuttings because they also seem to be cold weather tolerant. So I highly recommend, even if you just write it out, that you diagram your garden so you're rotating your crops. You know what did well, what didn't. The Project Zen said this was their garden grid, so I did not find this helpful because it was black, so I didn't use it. You can also track your planting, like here's where I started the seed, here's where I put it outdoors. This is when it actually was able to be, it germinated. This is when I could actually harvest it. And then it will help you plan, if you plan to replant the same thing, what time next year you want to start your seeds. And because I live in Ohio, and I believe I'm in zone 7, I have to plant indoors like March, April, if I want to grow my vegetables and herbs from seed. Another thing they had was a seed inventory page, so I need to fill that out. Then a garden chores page. So what do you want to do weekly? What do you need to do monthly? What do you need to do annually? So one of my chores that I'm going to need to do before winter sets in, but I still have peppers and some flowers in the garden, is I actually want to turn it over, use some of my compost, work that in to amend the soil, and then I will repeat that in the spring. So that's actually twice a year chore that I want to record here. And then they had a garden journal, and I thought, you know, it might be kind of fun looking back to maybe document some of your joys that you find in gardening, because garden is my happy place and I just really love it. The next section is animal management. So there's an egg collection log, when you acquire animals, animal losses and sales, if you're, say breeding chickens to sell and selling your baby chicks, medical supplies that you're going to keep on hand, animal health record for all kinds of animals. So I thought this would be very, very helpful. The honeybees really I don't sell them, so they're really pretty simple as far as taking care of them, feeding them, and then if you happen to get varroa mite, you may have to actually treat them, so that would be a good place to record it. In the area that I live, I am literally like 2 houses within the village limit, so we are not permitted to have chickens. In Ohio, there is a bill called the Barnyard Bill, which has kind of been tabled. It is an election year, number 1. Number 2, COVID has taken everyone's attention off this very important bill, which has been proposed for at least 2 years. And what this bill says is everyone has a right to raise food and small animals to help feed and sustain their family. And it's very specific. If you have X number of acres or land, you may have X number of chickens, X number of goats. I'm not going to have goats. I don't feel that I want to give up the room to have goats, but I really, really want to have chickens. I know some people advocate to be civilly disobedient and go ahead and get the chickens and deal with the consequences later. My problem with doing that is, A, I'm a rule follower. My neighbors would not have a problem with it. Actually, 2 houses behind me is also out of the village limits, and they have chickens and roosters and horses and all kinds of things, but I don't. And I would also hate to be forced to give up my animals and try to find a home for them. So I'm going to wait until it's actually permitted before I have chickens, and I have enough people around me that I can get free range eggs at a very economical price. So I'm not terribly worried about it. I would just like the joy of having chickens. Another section that I use a whole bunch is the kitchen management. So y'all know I love to cook, but I also love having a plan for my pantries. So I'm not really great at meal planning, but I'm pretty good on my pantry. So there is a 52-week storage purchase plan, and I'm going to have to look because this doesn't have a website on it. But it goes through 52 weeks. I certainly do not shop weekly. I'm lucky to get there like once every 3 or 4 weeks, except maybe just to go in and get something fresh that I would need because I do have my garden. But it talks about what you might want to do each week or each time you shop. So you might have to group it together. So for example, so many gallons of water, so many gallons of wheat if you're going to grind your own grain, salt, honey, molasses, butter shortening, those type of things. So this is a pretty good pantry plan. There's another one, and I believe this actually came from LDS, from the Mormons. I'm not Mormon, not criticizing anyone who is, but I thought they just had a great plan because it goes through the times of the year that you should buy things. So, for example, in January, after Christmas sales, stock up on socks, blankets, sheets, outerwear. Do your first aid supplies, look at your medicine chest, buy storage containers. Another thing I saw here in week 16, get your garden seeds, batteries, flashlights, candles, matches. So this kind of went away from the actual food item and talked about providing for your whole household needs. So this was really, really a good one too. And if you can't afford to do all of this at once, and I'm going to tell you, I can't, and I won't, I can at least kind of cherry pick what I'm low on and buy in quantities that match my budget. And this is just kind of a week or a month by month accounting of what I just showed you and explains why it does what it does. Some other things that I got from Project Zenstead, oh my word, are some conversion charts. So for powdered milk, if you need to use powdered milk, you don't store liquid cow's milk. How do you convert this for cooking and baking? How do you convert powdered eggs? So this would be if you're putting those type of items in your pantry, and I do keep powdered milk because I use it in a lot of my bread making. There's a kitchen cheat sheet from Project Zenstead and talks about cooking temperatures and common conversions, how to cut a recipe in half. And I usually just ask Alexa what I need to do, but this is great if you don't happen to have that. A log to keep all of your pantry supplies listed. Because of the style, let me tip you back up. The style of my pantry, it's pretty easy for me to tell at a glance what I have. And I'm also just feeding one, and let's see if I can do there. There is Frankie right there. He likes to look out the window. So I probably should log this, but I do label and date everything. So far I haven't gotten into the log. But if you have a large family or you're having trouble knowing how much you should put away or how much your family or yourself are consuming within a season and or 2 years or 3 years or however long you want to keep your canned goods, this is pretty cool. So, okay, back to freezer inventory. I so need to do this. I have a chest type freezer, and I discover all sorts of things in there. So I went to the dollar store and I actually bought some plastic baskets so that I could organize it a little better. So I put like all my goat's milk for soap making in one, veggies in another, fruit in another, meat in another. Well, that works really well until your freezer starts to get full and then you kind of jumble it up. So knowing what you have is really important, and then being able to consult this when you get your sale papers from Aldi or you hear about a sale on meat or items that you would use a lot in your freezer. This is a good thing to have. I really wish I would have purchased a larger freezer, but I didn't. Again, a pantry inventory, a canned goods inventory, herbal products inventory. So as I showed you here, some of this is food, but a lot of this, like my chamomile, I should be tracking how much I have, and this will also help in my garden planning because I don't have as many herbs on hand as I would like to have and I would like to grow. So that's part of my homestead growth. Okay. Grocery checklist. I do make a grocery list every week. This one was pretty, but I haven't used it. Now, this section is very similar to what I just showed you from Project Zinstead, but it actually came from Project Pantry, which is from Sutton Days. I believe it's Lisa Sutton's channel on YouTube, and I apologize, I cannot think of the name of her channel, except I think it is Sutton Days. Sutton Days. But she also has the inventory list, but she has things like non-food, store-bought food, home canned food, herbs and spices, home dehydrated food, freeze-dried food. So much, much more in-depth. I thought this one was actually a little bit better. And this you can get free online as well. And I think I printed 2 of these just because I thought it was so cool and I wanted to be able to do multiple inventories. A couple other sections that Project Zinstead offered is your homestead expense management. So this gets into things like your garden expenses. So I save all of my cardboard boxes. I put them down in the pathways between my garden beds, but I do have to buy 2 bales, $10 worth of straw twice a year, at least, to keep the weeds down. So that's an expense. If I have to purchase seeds or I want to grow something new. So actually knowing what you're spending, you can kind of decide, hey, you know, I had to buy all of these, let me make something up, all of these pea seeds, and I only got, you know, 2 quarts of peas out of it, and I spent more than I would have if I went to the store because they don't grow well in my area or because I have deer or pests. So I thought this was really a cool thing. It also goes through things like animal and feed expenses, equipment expenses, infrastructure. So, you know, if I get chickens, I'm going to have a chicken house and a chicken run and fence, some additional fencing, maintenance and repair, homestead business. So if you start to, for example, sell your herbs or your seeds or your eggs, whatever the case may be, or honey from the bees, you would want to record that, and then some place for miscellaneous expense. So I haven't started using that because actually I use my homestead for self-sufficiency, not for sales. With the exception, I do make some products from my herbs that I grow to use for health type benefits that I do sell. But I keep that separately under a different business binder. So here's a place you can keep track of your income. So from garden and produce, from services you might provide, animals, sales, etc. So I just wanted to share this with you. Again, I will post a link down at the bottom, and I hope that you found this helpful. Drop me a comment below. Do you have a binder? How do you keep track of all this? You know, I'm a list person and a very organized person, but I had pieces of stuff everywhere. So pulling it all together into one binder just really made good sense for me. So be healthy, be well, be blessed, and have a wonderful day.